You guys better strap in. If this is your first time with me, like, if this is the first time you're watching me doing a reaction to a video, you guys better strap the fuck in. My record so far is doing 2.5 hours of reaction to a 12-minute video. Like, dude, we're 25 seconds into the video, and I've been talking for like 5 minutes already. We haven't even started on the video, dude, and we're still pausing it. We're already pausing it and stalling on the video. Like, oh, we're taking this to the next level, man.
Adam and...
I was just about to say, the world looks good, the character, I don't like it. Like, this is a real alpha. It's not like how you're watching other games with like the alpha is a playable version of the game. This ain't it. This is an actual alpha, and they're taking the first steps in the direction of the combat, and that's why it's cool. Look at the fucking grass and everything.
But
Unreal
we're
Engine
in an
5,
area that
it's
is known
so
to
good.
harbor. Adam, Keenan, Trad, if you guys want to talk a little bit about how this process began all those months ago on defining good combat for Ashes of Creation.
Alright, so this is like the philosophy of the changes they've done.
Sure. I would say, you know, it starts with, you know, all of the hundreds of thousands of hours, cumulative hours of MMO we have under our belt, right?
We have a lot of hours of
Actually,
MMO
gamer
gameplay under our belts.
developers, I like that.
Collectively.
You know, we just got to push a couple buttons and we're immediately like, oh, it feels good or it doesn't feel good.
You know, it's funny, Keenan, actually, you say that.
I do want to, like, 2 seconds to talk about this. The first thing they're like talking about when discussing the design of combat is feels good, right? Combat feeling good is so important. It's why a lot of games just fucking crash. You can say a lot of bad things about World of Warcraft combat, and I'll be the first to do it. But for what it is, it feels good. It feels good clicking those keys and hitting the mortal strike. It feels good to charging. I played a warrior, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew this. I played a warrior. The combat feels good for being a tap targeting game, right? It feels impactful. The numbers popping in the screen. It just feels good. But it doesn't feel nearly as good as BDO. BDO combat feeling is through the roof. It feels like intuitive. It feels engaging. It flows. The timings with like the animations and everything, it's like it feels amazing. That's why I love grinding on my warrior. It's not that it's good, but it's that it feels good. So if that's like the first thing they're already talking about, where like that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
One of the I mean, you guys all know this because every one of you went through an interview with me, but one of the qualifying aspects of joining the team is, what type of MMOs do you like to play?
Nice,
dude. I'm so happy we have so many gamers that are GMs
and then from there we sort of do our research. You know, we have to take a look at the state of the art.
I swear to God, that's one of the most underrated things about video. It's the actual amount of gamers
hypotheses
and actual
about what
video
exactly
it
is that makes things feel good or not feel good, and then we make those things in as controlled a manner as we can, and then we turn the knobs, we tweak things, we see what feels good, what doesn't feel good, we come up with some rules, some processes, and then we put them to the test.
Okay, so one thing here to note, you guys watch here in the middle, right? You have this, because I'll turn it back just a little bit. Like you see it's red when you're mousing over. Yeah, the combat looks good. I don't care about the graphics right now. Already now, guys. What does this look like? Does this look like World of Warcraft tap targeting combat?
Feel good.
Where you have like your aim here.
And then we make those things in
movement
as
on the
abilities
abilities
as we can, and then
the
we
the
turn
dashing
the knobs,
back
we tweak
in.
Things.
Look like there's no lock on with this. I mean, there is the circle under, sure, but there's no lock on like the crosshair.
We see what feels good, what doesn't feel good. We come up with some rules, some processes, and then we put them to the test. And this is what comes out.
Yeah, it's a very iterative process, right? Like, you know, none of these things are like you form your theory
and
on paper,
subtargeting. That's what I don't think it's subtargeting.
You make the thing and it comes out to be exactly what
this
you see now,
very
right?
combat,
like it starts out the first time not super great.
See, he even missed his attack. He fucking missed his attack.
What we have to be able to do is
look at this. You guys were talking about circles under. Like, there's no circles under right now. Where is the target?
Not great about those things, and then
this shit is action combat.
You go and you make the thing and it comes out
But it
to be
looks good.
exactly what you see now, right? Like it starts out the first time not super great, and then what we have to be able to do as engineers and designers is identify what
Win to win.
is not great about those things, and then just continue to iterate on those things. And that's, as long as you keep making it better each time, eventually you're going to end up with something good.
Yeah, and for this exercise and finding what makes ashes great specifically, we wanted to approach it from the ground up, answering
this game?
individual
This is Ashes
questions
creation.
about our hypotheses and what we think is good, right? So we really focused
Blocking.
on
Look at that
individual
movement,
aspects,
dude.
that we
Big
think
hammer
makes
straight
good
to the fucking
combat
dome.
and answered them one at a time in a very tightly, very tight iterative process. And
Oh, I do want to. One thing here. If any of you guys play Warriors in BDO, look at this.
very
Right
tight
after the spin,
iterative
look at what he does.
process.
That ability right there, like that animation, is straight up taken from Heaven's Cleave. Like that is like the flow of the attacks, playing a warrior, two-handed awakening, right? A lot of these moves, the flow, the animation, the attack style is lifted from BDO combat. And that's what made me so excited about this. This is the first time like where I'm actually like, now I'm starting to get a bit excited to see where this is going. Like this update is really, really cool.
Yeah, Steven, you were talking about how you like.
Oh yeah, look at this. He missed an attack. Like this is a small detail, right? Small detail in combat. Look at this.
Yeah, Steven, you
There we go, right? Look at this.
were talking about how.
Motherfucker missed. I don't know about you, but that makes me happy. That is a good sign to me.
How you like how heavy the sword feels, and that weight impact.
So they obviously need to do some stuff like with the movements while attacking and everything. But do keep in mind, guys, this is only basic attacks. This is not using your skills or everything. There's a few skills in there. But in general, this is basic attacks. This is not the abilities. Yeah.
That is one of the combat pillars that we have been studying and honing in on in our development process. The other side of it is the other side of it being also like agency. You know, to what extent does this weapon respect your intentions? And that's the part that's important to me. I'm a classic player. I come from traditional MMOs, right? Like I want to be able to move and attack at the same time.
Right.
Moving combat.
Yes, and that was a huge point of feedback actually that we received during Alpha 1, was that we started with this more root motion approach to the basic weapon attacks, and ultimately we
Yeah, that's like, it looked fucking shit in... I watched the streams for the sieges and all that. It looks garbage, honestly. This they're talking about right now is so important.
players prefer that agency over that weightedness, but they also, there's a little bit of a conflict there because they also didn't like the floaty feeling which comes along with not having the weighted approach. So
what they're talking about here is, let's say you have a big weapon, right? And let's say you're swinging a big weapon and you're like making a massive attack, right? You gotta... Okay, let me illustrate. Let's fucking do this, boys. Let's do this. So let's say that you have this amazing fucking two-handed weapon of death and destruction, right? You're standing there with your massive throbbing keyboard and you're going to like fucking crush. Like if you're doing that, it looks weird if you're like, ah. You see what I'm saying? So that's like the weightedness. Like if you're taking your keyboard and, oops, and you're just like fucking banging it through, that looks stupid if you're like sidestepping while doing it, right? Okay, so that's what they're talking about. You gotta find that compromise between the weightness and the power, and then the mobility while doing it. And that is what BDO does so freaking amazingly well. You have that weighted feeling on your attacks because of the animation locking on some of the abilities. But they found a very good, I know you understood it, they found like a super good compromise between the fluidity and the control of movement while using abilities versus like the animation's weightedness of the big attacks. And you also see that between other classes, where you have those shorter animations. Like for example, okay, here's a great example. Archer. Have you guys seen an archer? Fucking pew pew pew, sliding to the side, pew 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 pew, jumping back, pew pew pew, and you can like change directions and stuff like that. Because it's a light weapon, it makes sense that you're on the move with the class and the field and everything. But then when he's doing those big wound up attack on his bow, right, he's locked in position, because that would look super weird if he's like doing too much. Like when you do those big charge ups, then you get kind of locked in. So that's what they're talking about. It's not about being fast. It's about how much control you have on your character when you do the things you do. So if you go back and look at my big swing with my keyboard, right? I can swing a keyboard quick. I can swing that keyboard real fucking quick. But if I'm sidestepping to the side while swinging, because I have control over my movement fully, it takes away the feel of the power. Right? That's what they're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so we kind of approached it from looking at player agency primarily, as Keenan had said, and the games that really handled player agency the best are those like classic MMOs, right? Players really like how smooth the classic MMO feel, how much player agency they get out of it, and then we took that and we tried building this sort of impact and weight on top of it.
Again, remember, this is melee combat. This is very important. We're talking about melee combat right now. They're not talking about casting or bows or anything. And melee combat, World of Warcraft classics, you have the full agency. Has the best feel of character movement? Yes. And that's where it's like the full-on agency. But whenever you get into... but then it starts going more in another direction, and that's the direction that BDO went, where you get those animation locks, where you don't have full agency over everything you do, but it gives you another value. It brings another feel to the combat, and I think we'll all agree with that, right? BDO doesn't have the full agency, but it is a good thing because it then feels more impactful on some abilities. And I think, again, Archer is a great example of high agency combat, where you can like slide around, move, you can shoot while you're, like you can literally sidestep and shoot on Archer, right? Whereas if you play something like Warrior, it might be quick, but when you're doing a Gravedigger, you're doing a Gravedigger. You can't move to the side while doing Gravedigger. If you're doing a slashing, well, you're doing slashing, but you can control the movement. So like it's finding those balances between the weightedness and the combat.
I think it all comes down to looking at it not as a binary of, you know, are we doing split body or are we doing root motion combat? It's looking at everything as modular pieces and then dialing in those numbers to make something that feels high in player agency, feels very impactful, like it has a lot of inertia, it feels very physical.
Like
yeah, my litmus test for agency in combat is take any moment in combat, pause time, look down at your hands, look at the keyboard. The buttons that you're pressing should be the directions that your character is moving. So with these weapons, even though there are little bits of root motion here,
I like the
they're always respecting your WASD input, and I think that's what makes them feel good.
I think another thing that you guys did that helps with that is the
I'm 100% with you more.
Gets registered, right? Like it's not, you know, at one iteration we had it where it detected what your input was at the beginning of the attack, and that just felt like if I decided to change my mind and go left instead of right in the middle of that attack, it's too bad. It already kind of queued that. And so I think now what you guys are doing is having it happen at like swing time, right?
What they're talking about here, to my understanding of this, now I don't work in the sphere. I never work with game development and everything, but my understanding of what they're talking about here with like swing timer and when like the input of abilities are registered and all that, what they're actually talking about is the same thing that BDO does, and it's timing abilities and inputs according to frame rate. And I know we hate this Cause more frames, more damage, more speed, and like it's better. But a lot of games use the frame rate updating to code attacks and time. And for what it sounds like they are going in that direction as well, because it gives the best feel, and it gives the most like agency with the abilities, and that's what BDO does as well. So that's the downside, obviously, that FPS then matters a lot more than just making the game run smooth. But it does give like really good combat, and it's one of the things that is more or less a linchpin in why BDO combat feels so damn good.
I've equipped these daggers, this dual wielding, these dual daggers. Talk to me a little bit about the differences between the heavier weapon group and the light weapon group.
I think they did.
Yeah, so initially in our investigation, we wanted to start with the light weapons to figure out how to really blend the weight of an...
I thought it meant like no animation consoles. No, not necessarily phased. Like animation canceling is something that's separate. Okay, so if your ability is tied up, let me see if I can explain this. And I think Warrior in BDO is a great example. You have an animation lock on some abilities, but if you tie up your animations to be a full animation, then like it all gets animation locked. When you tie it up to be on on frames, then it means that you can code in animation canceling if you choose to, and you can also just make every animation cancelable on the frame if that's what you want to do. But it doesn't mean you have to do it. Right, an example is BDO does this with the having abilities coded on the frames. So whenever it allows you to animation cancel abilities if they want you to do that. For example, Gravedigger, you can cancel that animation if you press Q on a warrior. And there's other animations that you cannot cancel, like Heaven's Cleave. But they could code those abilities to be cancelable because they are made on frame counts. Does that make sense? And again, this is what BDO does so well. This is what BDO does so well. And this is why I'm actually for the first time ever excited about Asset Creation, because they look to be straight up lifting BDO combat philosophy. Like the philosophy of BDO combat and like the base approach to it. This looks like World of Warcraft back in the day,
we
right?
found that to be very successful.
Going around there, like moving while using attacks.
But one of the things that
and
makes
stuff like that.
the daggers different than the sword is that the daggers never really slow you down. They're both respecting your directions, but the swords will actually slow you down at certain times. Like leading up into the strike, your split body movement is sort of blending down toward 0, and then you strike, and then it blends back up toward to 1. The daggers are not doing any blending like that. You're just split body, and then you're striking, and then you're back into split body. It's like a seamless process.
That was like for what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just playing with the directionals here. I mean, on the animation team, they did
AOC is going to be subscription based. So this is what the sheriffs have said so far. It's not a publicly traded company. It's one guy that owns it all. 2, he says it's going to be subscription based. 3, no pay to win. And is there something more? Yeah, that's about it. Yes, there's going to be a money shop, of course, and it's only going to be like cosmetic stuff.
The kind of foot placement and movement,
like, dude, that's one. Like, they still need to work a lot on the foot placement, but like this is those small things that gets me excited, because all of this just combat. Oh, it's music to my ears.
Strafing feeling on the body there. I know Alexi did a lot of work on the IK as well that we can see, like when you're, kind of stepping
this is
up
still
different
alpha,
portions.
dude. Like it's and the alpha 2. They're going to be like 4 alpha
it
phases
feels
and 10
really
beta.
good to play.
We'll probably play this game in 10 years.
Oh yeah, considering how physically based we are and animation driven our combat system is, it was super important that the animators, get all of that right, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park. I mean, one of the biggest things I think to making good feeling attacks is getting all of the departments involved in what feels good and on the same page, right? Getting everyone iterating. So, like in the process, we started with chopping up animations to build an ability that we thought felt good. And then we wanted to pass that off to animation to finalize those animations by chopping up our abilities and making animations that feel good. And then we can all loop everyone back together and finalize that ability. VFX has the same process too. So, it's a bunch of different departments iterating on a very micro scale to build something that is just awesome.
Decals, like for this heavy weapon, that first strike, you see that decal in the ground is, I love that.
Wait, that's
look.
fucking cool.
And even on the backswing, like when I hit the ground behind me, it's causing that decal.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff gets down into the really low-level systems details
Front that I think is.
Dude, by the time I finish this video, Valkyrie, Unreal Engine 7
the presentation,
will be
right?
out.
It's all part of what makes.
I'm excited about the AOC because everyone starts fresh. Oh yeah, like there's always the new game hype, of course.
Show it on stream, but
But again, New World was also a new game. It needs a bit more than just being a new game for me to give two shits about it. I'm so happy I never catched New World, dude.
We're building a sort of
fun in the beginning,
singular
right?
tool that all of the teams can use to build abilities and tweak them. Sound effects, visual effects, animation, design, engineering, all using the same tool, grounded in animation,
exactly like the new
to build these abilities.
But I don't know about you guys. If I'm playing an MMO, I want to play it more than a week. I want more out of a game than just it's a new game, which is great. But I want to like, and this looks cool. At least the combat looks really fucking cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Another component, Adam, which you guys worked on is camera controls and adding. Talk to me a little bit about the.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about
kind of visuals that are provided through these additional camera controls for abilities and combat.
Yeah, so I mean, the word of the day has been impact and weight, right? And a lot of that is sold through what the player sees. We didn't want anything to be nauseating or over the top, and certainly people can adjust it in option settings. But we wanted something that would sell a lot of the weight without being too over the top and too sort of cartoonish, right? And so we implemented a few different camera effects, things like camera shake, radial blur, and a few other things involved, and really tried to maximize.
Where do you like? It seems like something I've seen before, like a bit of camera shake and some like warps and like. Am I going crazy here, guys? Am I going fucking crazy, or does this look like they are super inspired by BDO combat? The plan, from what they've said, is also doing winter, like winter seasons rules. Roads will be closed off, and like mountains will be slowed in. The actual world will change, so there's gonna be areas that are inaccessible because of like snowing and icing up and all that, and rivers are gonna be like you can walk on them because they freeze up and things like that. So not only just like seasons, but like interactive seasons.
Both the functionality of certain types of abilities as well as the synergies possible between them. You want to talk a little bit, Adam, Keenan, and Trad, about what's possible given our ability toolkit?
Definitely. I mean, this whole, prototype process has been kind of, two steps. One of those steps was what, Adam and Keenan were talking about a bit there with, their hypotheses on, what makes good feeling combat, and they've done a great job on that. But the other side of that was also just, coming up with these almost mock class kits. And, the idea was this might not be the final class, but there will be things that we can take from it that we like and then get rid of that we don't like, and let's just make something. And you guys have kind of seen some sneak peeks of that already from the Assassin in previous stream, and now you're seeing something from the Weapon Master. That was the other one that we took just to experiment with and contrast these different types of combat. And what I was kind of going for here was, getting class synergies in place where You know,
180
maybe, you know,
to
for
200.
example, you've
So you
got
can
a
go
thing
60
that if you
160
kill
to
someone
200.
with one of your other abilities, it'll reset the cooldown on one of these abilities. And there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Still step target? I mean,
in
you can
this
see
kit,
it's not
whereas
step
there
target.
wasn't so much of that interaction in the kits and, you know, the previous outfit. It was an area that we felt we could really improve. And the good thing about that whole exercise.
Oh yeah, okay. So that's what they've been talking about, Cosmic. The reason it feels tap target is because of the player agency, which is this video is really what it's all about. You have like a spectrum where you have player agency, and then you have like the impact of the animations. Right. So in BDO, if you were to compare like a class with high player agency and then a class with like high impact, right? It would be an archer. An archer, you move around a lot, you can move while shooting and all that. And say an awakening warrior, you have like quick animations, you can cancel them all that, but you're like doing the full animation. And that's what they've been working on, finding that balance between being able to move while using abilities. Great example of where you balance it out. Reckless blow here. Reckless blow, you can move and then unleash it, right? Whereas the tap targeting feel would be charging up reckless blow, basically standing like, and then be like, instead of being like, you see what I'm saying? So that is why it feels tap targeting, is because in World of Warcraft you just tap target and you walk around like boom, 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 right? That's the feel, and that's what they're trying to balance still. That's what they're still working on. But I do agree, like, go too much player agency, it feels tap targeting. I'm still on hype, but think more of the game now. Same, like exactly same. I'm not hyped. I am excited to see where it goes next. I'm not excited about what I think it's going to be. But now I'm actually excited to see what the next change is going to be with the combat. If it keeps going this direction, keep making better, might